there. I wanted to come on and share with you the common mistakes I see when people are trying to transition into corporate instructional design. So I actually kind of made a list, and I just want to go through some of these mistakes that I've seen and give you a little bit of advice. And hi, Jamie, thanks for joining me. And so one of the first mistakes I see is that I don't, many people who are trying to make the transition, either it has to do with their portfolio. Either they have a portfolio that they made during their master's program, and that portfolio is full of school projects, or maybe you have like papers that you've written, or your portfolio comes from like a higher education background in instructional design, and so you just have things like screenshots of the learning management system. I know I did whenever I was first making my transition. Or you have, blueprints of building out courses from higher education in your portfolio. And those really are the kinds of things that corporate hiring managers are biased against, right? They're not looking for portfolios that have your master's degree projects. They're not looking for higher education blueprints. What they want to see is something that is corporate facing, because you have to know your audience. Just like you do in instructional design, you need to know who your learner is. You need to know who your audience is that is looking at your portfolio. The other thing about portfolios is I see a lot of portfolios that are just downright ugly, and they don't look good. The graphic design is missing. They don't have a cohesive color scheme. The icons don't match. The fonts are all over the place, or maybe there's some real kid looking fonts I've seen on there. And so you really want to think about, when you go to a website, what makes you trust that website? The way you trust a website is the way that it looks, right? The way that it's easy to navigate. And so just like you're having a portfolio with assets in it, you need to have a portfolio that looks good, the website itself, because that is part of your portfolio asset, is the website itself. So that's the number one mistake that I see. And that kind of leads into the second mistake, and that is not getting feedback on your portfolio or any of the assets that you have in your portfolio. And I know that this part is scary for many people, to get that feedback and to receive that. But because feedback is so important in instructional design, you need to get it from your stakeholders, from your subject matter experts, from your team members, and especially from your learners. That it's really good to just start right now, especially when you're transitioning, to start getting feedback. And I also want to encourage you to get feedback from somebody that you aspire to be, right? You don't want to necessarily base your feedback on somebody who doesn't have, what it is that you aspire to be. Otherwise, it's just somebody who's at the same level trying to coach you. And so you want to get that feedback from someone that you know and trust, and you see their work, and you see the outcomes that they're getting. And so those are the kinds of people that you should target to get feedback for your work. So the other thing is, of course, not getting feedback means that you can't include deliberate practice, right? Which talks about experience. So if you're not getting feedback, then you're not improving your skills, you're not improving your portfolio, and you're not improving the very practice of instructional design, which is one of the critical mistakes that people make as far as making that transition, is getting deliberate practice, where you're not only just building courses or doing instructional design or building e-learning, but you are finding out where your areas of weakness are, and you're making them better, and then you're doing it again, and you're implementing that feedback, and then you're doing it again and getting more feedback. That is how you grow in any sport. That's how you grow in any discipline. So that leads me into the next thing, which is experience. Getting some kind of experience. A lot of people, they'll maybe try to build out a portfolio, or they'll try to redo their resume to translate their skills, but they don't have any legitimate instructional design experience on their resume. And so I go over in many other videos how to get experience. But if you have zero experience, most job descriptions out there and even like the applicant tracking systems that are accepting resumes are spitting out and not even reviewing any resumes that do not have any experience in instructional design or e-learning development. So that's the other mistake that I see. The other thing is, just like I mentioned, graphic design for your portfolio, but it's also graphic design and visual design for any of your assets, right? Your facilitator's guide, your instructor-led training, your e-learning. The way it looks, the way it's laid out, the visual communication is just as important as whatever kind of content that you have structured to be engaging for your learners. It's got to look good. And so you can fix that, of course, through learning graphic design, applying those principles, getting good feedback from those that you aspire to be so that you can correct those issues. I know that instructional designers are not graphic designers, but if you really want to land that first job, you've got to stand out and you've got to build up those skills or borrow from the best if you have to, or, be inspired by the best graphic designers when you're creating your own assets. And then the other thing that I wanted to include, hi, Timothy. Yes, right. You have to understand how learning works and how to evaluate it so that you can know what you're delivering is actually working. Yeah, exactly. So just like you said, I totally am in agreement with you. You have to know, you can't design in a box, right? We know this from design thinking. We know this from learning experience design. And we know this from the old practice of instructional design, is that you have to take that feedback and you have to implement it in your work. Also, that makes you a really good team player. People love to work with people who can accept feedback on their work. And so even if you can grow in accepting feedback, you really will be better as an instructional designer to be able to accept that feedback. Do not take your work personally, especially at the beginning, right? The other thing that I wanted to talk about, the mistake I see, is resumes. Once again, it goes back to the way your resume looks, but really the resumes that are making the most amount of mistakes are the resumes that are not translating their skills to instructional design and resumes that are missing the keywords for instructional design. Please know that all resumes, I'm just like blanketing this at this point, all resumes are going through some kind of applicant tracking system, which means no human sees your resume unless it gets past the barrier of keywords. Your resume must have the keywords that are in the job description for the job that you are applying for. So please update your resumes for every single position that you apply for. All right, and then the last two more things I want to tell you that I see mistakes on is how you prepare for your interview. And so many people prepare for their interview and maybe they've really memorized a lot of the instructional design process and the models, but the way that they haven't prepared for their interview is confidence. I think that really lacks in a lot of new people who are trying to transition, is the confidence in their skills. And I think that of course relates back to not having experience and not accepting feedback, because your confidence grows as your practice grows. You feel more confident in what you can do, how you deliver, what kind of solutions you'll come up with, how you can solve performance gaps, the more that you practice instructional design. And so that's the number one mistake I see in interviews. And of course, confidence in knowing the instructional design models. I have a video on seven instructional design models you need to know. You can go check it out on my IDLE Facebook page. And then also under the being prepared for a test. So I know that a lot of people have posted in here about tests that they're going through in the interviews. Be prepared for tests for every single interview. They're going to say, It might even be on your first phone interview. They might say, okay, I have a course that's instructor-led training. I want to make it more interactive. How do you do that? You need to have a list of ways to make instructional instructor-led training more interactive. They're going to say, you get a content dump from an SME. What do you do with it? Right? You need to have these answers inside you. So you need to really get clear about those types of tests that they're going to ask you during the interview. And then they actually give you real tests, right? They'll say, create, just like I think Stephen is his name, posted that he's creating a presentation for his 4th round of an interview, which is a long interview process. It doesn't always go that long, but they really have to validate with instructional designers that they really do understand the craft. And so he had to create instructor-led presentation. Other people have to create samples based on content that job just gives to them. Some that are interviewing have to do like an essay about those things, or some tests have you write answers to, like, if the subject matter expert isn't around or they're non-responsive, how do you deal with that situation? Or the subject matter expert has given you back this content. What's wrong with it? How do you go back to them? So those are the types of tests that you need to be prepared for. And then the other thing, of course, is just that you know only theory and you don't, of course, have the practice or the feedback or the portfolio and just the whole combination. And so today really is the last day of enrollment until I open enrollment back up in May to start class in June for this year. And so if you are on the fence about joining the EIDL Courses Academy, I want to let you know that doors close at midnight Eastern time tonight. And I tell everyone who messages me personally, but I really want to make sure that you understand that every single student that comes into the EIDL Courses Academy, it is my solemn promise to you to help you reach your goals. I do everything within my power to help you reach your goals to become an EIDL. So far, we've had 8 people that have landed their job in instructional design, their first job. I've had at least 10 who have been promoted in their current position or got a salary increase that have come into the academy. 7 freelancers came into the academy and they have more clients, or they've been moved into my EIDL talent pool. And this round, so far in this cohort, this 3rd cohort, 33 students have enrolled, and I think something like 90% of them are teachers. So if you're a teacher and you're considering joining the EIDL Courses Academy, you really will be in like an excellent place with this cohort. And so I just really wanted to reach out and let you know one last time that this really is the only implementation program of its kind where you not only learn how to build your portfolio from scratch, even if you've never built a course before. That is included in how you build your portfolio assets. You learn how to build courses, instructionally design them for a corporate audience. You also get all the other training for building your job application assets, how to do e-learning development, group mentorship from me, and the EIDL Courses Academy community, which is the heart of the entire program. And so if you are thinking about joining, today is the last day, and I'll still be around in this group and supporting you as best I can in the Become an EIDL Facebook group. And thank you so much for listening and joining me on here. And thank you, Timothy, for sharing your wise words of learning those model concepts in graphical ways through infographics. So you're so right about how we can help new instructional designers. So anyway, I hope to see you inside the academy. If not, I'll see you inside Become an EIDL, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.